Hello everyone, thanks for joining. We have a politically charged ephemera and a wide range of uncommon collectibles to share with you tonight. I'm Palmer, the Marketing and Creative Director here at Everything But the House. The crew from our merchandising team and a special guest will be with us tonight. This time capsule of significant collectibles comes from the Baker family in Montville, New Jersey. When Wendy Baker was a little girl, she inspired her father to begin collecting, and now she is prepared to let go of the family home that has been a launching pad for the 3 generations of Bakers and its unique contents. We actually have the auction separated into 2 parts, a wider ranging set of collectibles including license plates, vintage toys, and political ephemera, and another auction focusing specifically on the large and extensive historic political pinback collection. We want to hear from you guys as we go, so be sure guys, chat us and make sure you're commenting and letting us know what you want to hear about, and we'll try to bring it up. So let's quickly jump into some of the most followed items in the sale. Let's start with the collectibles, which actually has a really great traction so far. There are almost 20,000 follows on the sale so far, which is really great for first 3 days. And we actually have follows from every state in the country. So a lot of stuff happening because of this. It's a unique set. And in the unique set, at the top of the list, some Christmas decorations are really floating up there, and we have some crazy iconic those mid-century cats that are at the top of the list, cat clocks, and some other unique pieces up there. There's really so much stuff in here, it's hard to kind of even jump into. Some license plates will come up, and we'll talk about that a bit later. Lots of fun stuff for us to bring up and talk about. And then in the pinback collection, the political pinbacks, there's really just the kind of some marquee names and some pieces that date back quite a ways that are getting a lot of traction. Lincoln, Grant, Roosevelt, those guys are all sitting at the top. And as we go through it, you'll see this collection covers a lot of territory. So with that said, let's jump in and get started and keep on the momentum. So Meredith, let's pick up on a topic that we talked about last week. Come on in. Hi.
Hey, Palmer.
We talked about Barbies last week and brought some background there. We got another bit of Barbie to talk about today too, right?
That's right.
All right.
So last week we talked a lot about vintage Barbie and the collectability of Barbie and her more approachable friend Midge, but obviously we can't talk about Barbie without discussing Ken. And we were lucky enough to have a great representation of a vintage Ken doll. Seen here.
All right. So last week you mentioned that the vintage era Barbies were from the 1960s. When did Ken come into the picture?
So Ken arrived during the same time frame, actually in March of 1961. He is named after Barbie founders Ruth and Elliot Handler's son Ken, and first made his debut with Barbie in a television commercial.
Right.
The first Ken was just clad in red swim trunks with a yellow towel, and he was either a blonde or brunette with blue eyes and plastic hair. Palmer, you actually look like the original Ken doll. What do you guys think?
My plastic hair and my blue eyes?
No, just the color.
So was Ken intended to be Barbie's boyfriend?
Well, on again, off again. It's funny because in the 1960s, fictional novels were actually published with backstories for Barbie and her friends, and that's where their relationship was established.
All right, so I think the saga continues because I know my daughter's been watching some Barbie saga on Netflix. So what comes in Ken's collection here? It looks like there's quite a bit of stuff.
So I love this collection specifically for the depth of his wardrobe. It's not all featured here, but I pulled out some of my favorite pieces.
Sure.
So this great pair of vintage denim.
Really nice denim.
Really nice and structured. These corduroys, which are great for fall.
We got this great sweater.
That's right, and then another style here that's almost like a Letterman.
Yeah.
And he's got a couple pairs of shoes, some boxing gloves, there's a bowling bag in here. My favorite, these awesome swim trunks.
They're very tiny. And there's some great shirts back there.
Yes.
Those are cool, they're still in the package.
Yep, these are amazing because they're still in the packaging. And the print is actually kind of fun.
Kind of on trend, really.
Yeah. And then it comes with this little booklet here. There's also sewing patterns for more additional outfits. And of course, I cannot forget the sombrero.
Right.
So just to note, also, I wanted to just call your attention to, there's a separate lot included in this collection as well. And I'll just grab it here.
Oh yeah, right on.
And inside this case, I'm not going to open it because it's packed really full, but it comes with a Barbie, Ken, midge, like we talked about last week, and a lot of clothing and accessories. And then, of course, this amazing carrying case.
Great condition, like full case of the whole kit. That's
right.
amazing. Well, thank you, Meredith.
Thank you.
So I want to call out that the Baker family estate is another featured estate in our upcoming TV series. Be sure to follow your favorites and do your final bidding on live.ebth.com for a chance to be featured on the show. And don't forget to chat us along as you go. So Jen, it looks like you're queued up to talk about some unique bourbon decanters up here.
Hi, Palmer.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm excited to actually feature three things this evening that I personally love.
Okay.
Number one, bourbon. Number two, Christmas. And finally, dachshunds.
All right. So let's start with my favorite, bourbon.
All right. Good choice. Excellent idea. We actually really have a fun collection of vintage Jim Beam bourbon decanters, politically themed, which is rather timely. Each pair of decanters features both the elephant and the donkey, which of course represents the two political parties. One set depicts the opposing sides as boxers. Yep. And the other one in clown suits. What do you think? You think they're making a statement?
I think so.
Pretty obvious. So the first pair was designed in 1964, and you may recall that this was the year that the Democratic President Lyndon B. Johnson defeated Barry Goldwater. And the second set of decanters over on this side, dressed in the clown suits, they were released in 1968, and this was the year that was really considered one of the bloodiest in American politics. Recall there were several assassinations, very sadly, and violent riots surrounding the Vietnam War. Republican Richard Nixon defeated Hubert Humphrey, and the prevailing attitude towards politics at the time was very distrustful and disrespectful.
Sure.
So
it's interesting and obviously very timely at the present day. Two more quick questions. Are the decanters full, and what can you tell us about Jim Beam and what's special there?
Great questions. Concerning the first, sadly, the decanters are empty. But I'm also glad that you asked about Jim Beam, because Jim Beam, the Beam family, is really actually highly regarded as the first family of bourbon. They immigrated to the United States, German immigrants, in 1740, and about 48 years later they settled in Kentucky, where they grew corn. As you know, the climate and the limestone springs in Kentucky are very conducive to making bourbon. So Jacob Beam used his father's time-honored recipe, and he sold his first barrel of sour mash, it was called sour mash at the time, in 1795, which is really only 3 years after Kentucky became a state. So pretty cool.
And they've been doing it ever since.
7 generations later in 225 years. It's a lot of bourbon.
I think I know the answer to this, but the donkey and the elephant, how did that come about?
Well, I believe that the donkey is associated with the Democratic Party after Andrew Jackson was called a jackass by one of his opponents.
All right.
He reportedly was amused by the whole thing, and he, really relished the comment and began using the donkey in campaign material, and kind of as an effort to rebuke his adversaries, and so that's how that came about. And then many years later, the Republicans became associated with the elephant after cartoonist Thomas Nash drew a pachyderm in his Harper's Weekly publication referring to President Grant's bid for a third term. And for some reason, the association just stuck.
Okay.
Yep.
A clever turn on the head by Jackson. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's keep going on the political topic. I actually had the pleasure with speaking to EBTH arts and collectibles expert Anton Bogdanov. Let's jump to an interview that we did just a little bit earlier and learn more about Anton and the extensive and incredible set of pieces.
Well, I've been involved in numismatics and due diligence in the arts and collectibles industry for about 15 years now. 5 of those I've been with EBTH. I work as an appraiser and a senior content editor here. So my primary job is to assist our catalog teams and clients with authentication and provenance research across the spectrum of all the categories.
Let's jump in with coins and tell us a little bit about the collection itself and what's kind of important about it as a whole, and then we can talk about a few of the pieces.
Sure. Well, as a whole, the collection spans from the late 19th to early 21st century. We see an assortment of U.S. silver coinage as well as currency. We're talking about silver certificates, legal tender notes, Federal Reserve notes. There's also a selection of U.S. Mint proof sets, tokens, and some novelty items that you would expect to see in a sizable collection. I believe there's a Morgan silver dollar that was inset in an ornate brass buckle in there somewhere. So other
Cool.
little small tidbits like that.
Nice, nice. Why don't you show us a few of the pieces that you wanted to talk about that are significant?
Sure. Well, let's get started with, we have a Whitman album, of course, the classic Whitman Blue coin album, and it's a complete set of piece silver dollars. Of course, the piece dollar, it's a successor to the Morgan silver dollar, and we see
Sure.
more of that French influence design by medalist Anthony de Francisci. So what the collection holds is you're getting a span of the series 1921 to 1935, and that includes the key dates here. These are all 90% silver coins. They're silver dollar size. They're 90% silver, 10% copper. Each one weighs about 26.7 grams when they're uncirculated. Most of these examples are circulated, but it is the complete collection. Not only do we have the silver dollar set in a Whitman album, but we have some others. We have a complete set of Walking Liberty half dollars. That'd be 1941 to 1947. These are designed by Adolph A. Weinman. The metal content is the same as the silver dollars. They're 90% silver coinage. We also have, we have a collection of American silver eagles. Now these are bullion coinage, meaning they're 99.9% silver as opposed to 90% silver.
Sure.
The collection includes some of the lower mintage coins. We have 94, 96 in there, 1986. It spans 1986 through 2003. So all of the American Silver Eagles of the series should be in that album.
Nice. Very cool. I mean, so there's a few of the Whitman books in there, which is cool, and there's some other coins from there. That's awesome. Let's jump over and talk about the pinbacks. I think that's one of the things that we're all super excited about. Pretty extensive collection as far as the biggest I've seen. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the background on that collection and then why pins and pinbacks are so important?
Sure. Well, just to get started on the collection, this is one of the most complete and extensive political memorabilia collections that we've had the pleasure of working with. We're not talking about hundreds of pins, we're talking about thousands of not only celluloid, but tin litho political buttons, some dating back to as early as the mid-19th century. The family that collected these, they were involved with APIC, and some of you may know that's American Political Item Collectors. It's a organization for the hobbyist collector of political memorabilia. And they were involved with that organization as early as the 1970s. Sorting through some of these lots, you can see that they dedicated so much time and care, and they really were involved in the hobby. And it's spectacular to see just a collection like this grow over a lifetime, or someone's hobbyist lifetime, where they put bits and pieces in every few years, and then over time they assemble something that's really sizable and important.
Yeah, it was cool to see. There's a lot of ephemera as well as the pins that kind of combine these two sales. A bunch of Roosevelt stuff, whether it's Franklin or Teddy. And then, and like you said, it's spanning generations. There's a whole bunch of significant license plates that are like political that I thought were really cool. But I think we have like 5 pins that you kind of pulled out as kind of some of your favorites, or at least some of the most maybe rare and significant. So why don't you run down that top 5?
Sure. Well, first off, we have really an exceptionally rare Charles Evans Hughes Lincoln Hughes Club celluloid button. Now the design, it shows you a photographic portrait of Charles Hughes, and it's next to an illustrated profile of Abraham Lincoln. Now, the profile that you see, it's actually something that you might be familiar with. It's after the famed Berger photograph. And if you haven't heard of the Berger photograph, just take a look through your pocket change and you may find, one of these Lincoln pennies. And that same profile, that it's based off the same photograph, the design there. So what we have is 2 side-by-side profiles with commemorative dates, 1860 to 1864, 1916, which is when this political campaign was issued and the button was issued. And then we have Union Bug which is a little insignia on the curl of the button, and it shows you the union manufacturer want to know their presence on the button. If you turn around, and you'll see the back papers, it's a little printed imprint, and it slides inside of the back edge of the button, and it shows the manufacturer's marks of the firm Deges and Clust. For reference, it's in the Hake Guide. It's number 63. Then we have another really exceptionally rare button. It's the 1920 Republican candidates button. What we have is profiles of Warren Harding for president, Calvin Coolidge for vice president, and Penrose for senator. And this one we call a triget. Normally for a Juget button, you have two candidates side by side on one design image. And this one, it's a little bit more scarce. It's called a triget. We have three candidates. What also is interesting about this button, it's the 1.75 inch size, which is the rarer of the two sizes that this button was issued in. If you look at the design, it features three oval portraits over a rising sun. There's a patriotic crossed flag motif. Again, we see the Union bug to the margin. We see the maker's mark of J.H. Shaw and Co. of Philadelphia to the curl. And we see a stamped Union mark to the reverse. Now, the large size normally did not come with back paper, so they actually die stamped the impression of the Union mark, and it's a really beautiful strike. Yeah. This one is the smaller size you could reference in the Hake Guides as number 25, but the larger size that we have, it hasn't been featured in many references. In 2014, it was known that 3 examples were known to exist. So this might be the 4th. This might be one of those 3. It's really scarce, and it's really a pleasure to see it come in a sale.
That's incredible, extremely rare. So the triget, was that produced because of the influence in a certain region, or because they felt adding the senator was going to kind of buoy the ticket?
Yeah, you want to have as many candidates on one ticket as possible, and if someone is lesser known, it's going to bring recognition to their campaign. And if we talk about another button, this one's again a celluloid button that's quite scarce. We have a Theodore Roosevelt San Juan Hill Rough Rider in back. It's a really colorful, beautiful design. It features an illustrated portrait of Roosevelt on horseback with the American flag over San Juan Hill to the upper right corner. This one is manufactured by the firm Whitehead and Hogue Co. It does have a back paper with additional text, which we normally don't see. Additional text reads, "Send orders to the National Campaign Button Company." This one's a reference in the Hake Guides as number 71.
Nice. And so that's Theodore Roosevelt, probably after his legendary charge in San Juan.
Yeah, and it's so rare to see him in a Rough Rider uniform on a colorful format design like this.
Nice.
If going further into sale, we start looking at, we have a Harding and Coolidge 1920 Juget. Like before we had the triget, now we have the Juget celluloid button with 2 candidates on one design. And what we have is sepia tone portraits of Warren Harding and for his presidential campaign, and then Calvin Coolidge for vice president. On the curl, we have notations for Edmondson and International. And again, for the back paper, we have a manufacturer's mark of Whitehead and Company. So that one's a Hake reference 2009. Now, if we get into some of the more earlier type campaign memorabilia, we have an Abraham Lincoln and Andrew Johnson double-sided ferrule type medal. Instead of a badge, this one's actually a medal, is meant to be worn on some sort of silk or textile pattern that was worn around the neck. If we look into the center portraits of the button, we have a ferrule type portrait, which is essentially a tintype. You normally refer to tintypes in cased images. This time it's on a metal, and what's remarkable is it's double-sided. Normally we don't see double-sided ferrule type portraits like this. They don't come up very often.
Wow, very cool.
looking at some more of the early political memorabilia, we have a USS Grant red, white, and blue die-cut star ferrule type badge. Again, it's the tintype portrait in the middle. There's a portrait of Grant, and it's surrounded by these die-cut impressions where we have colored paper actually inserted into the badge. The paper is remarkable condition. We see what looks to be oak leaves or sprays coming off of the date 1868 at the bottom. It's a remarkable badge that you don't see come up very often in sale.
Yeah,
And,
it's a beautiful piece. The color of the stars with the gold around, and then yeah, it's a very cool button.
Absolutely. And you see in the top end of the design, you see 3 linking chain links. So you normally associate that with fraternal orders, and it's just interesting that they were incorporated into the design.
Nice, very cool. Well, thank you for sharing all that knowledge. It's you definitely have a grasp of the subject matter, and the references to the guides are super great. So I'm sure the listeners are going to be happy to have those numbers so they can do their due diligence. Appreciate the time today, and we hope to have you on back soon.
So cool to have Anton dial in with such great background and share his knowledge with us. There are so many pinbacks in this collection from both parties, and as Anton mentioned, going back quite a few years. Very collectible presidential names like JFK, Lincoln, Taft, McKinley, and Harrison. Let's go ahead and transition into more of the cultural collectibles. Kara, why don't you come out and tell us about Esky from one of my favorite magazines?
Sure. So this guy is Esky, and he's the kitschy mascot for the Esquire magazine. He's characterized, as you can see, with this very caricature kind of look with this handlebar mustache and these bulging eyes.
And it looks like he's kind of timelessly dressed in 20th century vibes, so like the fedora and hat combo here.
Sure. He's actually from the 1930s, and he first appeared on the cover of the Esquire's second issue in January of 1934, and appeared on every cover engaging in various activities like golfing or sailing or with women, and that was until 1961.
Right on. So what happened in 1961?
Well, in 1961, his face began dotting the I in the Esquire logo.
Okay, and he's still on the cover of the magazine today, right?
He's still on the cover, but now he hangs out on the cover spine.
Ah, I feel like he's getting demoted, but I'm
Maybe
glad he's
a little
still there.
bit.
I'm glad he's still there. And someone pretty significant was involved in designing him too, right?
Yes, he's based on a drawing by the cartoonist E. Sims Campbell, who drew cartoons for the Esquire for years, but was actually the first African-American cartoonist hired by a major magazine.
Wow.
So impressive.
Yeah.
And since his creation, he's been produced as display figures in various sizes. You have some more handheld figurines, and then larger ones like we have here, these display figures. So
I've always kind of wondered where the character came from, so it's cool to hear the backstory. Thank you.
yeah, he's a fun guy.
Thank you for that. Jen is going to pop out and share another one of her favorite things. What do you got this time?
Well,
We already did bourbon, so.
we did bourbon, so let's talk about this cute little guy,
All
this
right.
little cute little
You
dog.
grab him?
Yeah, I'll pick him up. He's so stinking cute. Anyway, I promised to feature this little guy, and he's one of my favorite items in the sale, and probably because I've had the great pleasure of being owned by a dachshund for 16 years. And anyone who's had any experience with this breed of dog will certainly recognize the confident stance, the regal profile. He's just a super cute little guy. And he's functional too. He's got this kind of knife edge along the top, which is a must for anybody that's a gardener. You can scrape your boots on him. And since he is made of cast iron, he's got some good heft to him. He can even perform as a doorstop.
All right.
So anyway, everybody remembers these. You know, they were probably made in the 40s and 50s. And anyway, it's a fun, nostalgic
For sure. And
item for me.
It's quite heavily followed. As it was at the top of the list earlier when we checked in. It's currently got 19 bids, but sitting at $50. So.
Well, for good reason. Everybody loves dogs, Palmer. Everybody.
I have a Chiweenie at home. I know.
There you go. I'll say
So
there.
that's 2 down. You got 1 more. So
All
we'll
right,
come
I'll
back
come
out in a
back.
bit.
I'll come back.
Let's bring Meredith back out and let's talk about these iconic cat clocks behind me. I did say that right.
Yes, so these are California Clock Company Kit Kat clocks.
I don't know
Really
how
a
you just got through
mouthful.
that.
There are 3 separate lots of Kit Kat clocks in this collection. This bejeweled one up here. This lot comes with 2, a pink one and a black one, and then a poodle clock. These Art Deco novelties originated in 1932 during the Great Depression and were originally designed in Portland by Earl Arnault and manufactured by Allied Clock Company.
Right on.
The cat is known for its signature wagging tail and rolling eyes, and the contagious smile that was created to inspire joy during the Depression.
Okay.
The clock's design has really only seen a few variations over the years. This is pretty close to original. The very first ones only had 2 paws instead of 4, as you see here.
And these are all 4 paws.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then during the 1940s and 50s, they also earned a bow tie, which was actually the period of the most explosive growth for the company. The clock became so popular that it became synonymous with the 1950s in America.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. It seems like a lot of people recall their parents or grandparents having one of these in the kitchen. I know we sold one recently. We had a post about it on Facebook, and it got a ton of comments. So
Yeah.
definitely a popular item.
Really fun. So during the 1960s, the Allied Clock Company moved to California and was renamed the California Clock Company. It was during this period that some clocks were embellished with crystals, and we have an example of that one up top. And then later in the early 80s, the clock's trademark, Kit Kat, was added to the face of the clock. These clocks are so popular that the manufacturer actually boasts that an average of 1 clock has been sold every 3 minutes over the last 50 years.
It's a lot of cat clocks.
And they're still so popular here as well because the pink and black lot is actually the most followed item in the entire sale.
Another one at the top of the list. That's
Yep.
awesome. Currently at $17 for the duo.
And then this guy looks
and
like
13 bids. And then what was the bejeweled one?
I think it said 73.
Yeah. Okay. 19 bids, $73. So cool. Yeah, these things are iconic, and I know a lot of people like to collect them and still hang them today. Let's touch on another cat. Thank you, Meredith. We got a tiger head up here that's standing out, and I guess, hey, Kara, is this another mascot from another company?
Yeah, I'm really into mascots tonight, Palmer.
Yeah, so like it looks like the Baker family was too.
Yeah.
And this is from Esso, right?
Yeah, this is a great nostalgic piece of the Esso memorabilia. It's a plastic tiger head display that probably was mounted on top of a gas pump. And as you probably know, Esso is the trading name for ExxonMobil.
Right.
And
So there's quite a bit of history between Exxon and the tiger and how the imagery kind of evolved.
yes, a lot of history. He first became the Esso mascot, in Norway around the turn of the 20th century. Then disappeared for a little bit until the end of World War II, when there was a push for petroleum advertising, and officially made his U.S. debut then.
Okay.
And at first, he appeared very much like this guy, kind of like a cartoon, and resembled Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, because there was attempts to create this image and culture in this like post-war optimism.
Yeah.
And they wanted to push this pleasant kind of imagery. And you can see he's fun and cute and
Want to make him
fluffy.
fun and friendly.
Yeah, I feel like he needs a name. I feel like he looks like a buttercup.
He became really popular over the years, right? I mean, he's still sort of around.
As Esso sales really increased, he became the talk of gasoline advertising, actually. And Time magazine even declared 1964 to be the year of the tiger along Madison Avenue. And then the campaign started to include pictures of tiger tails emerging from gas tanks and gas pumps. They would put faux tiger tails underneath to make it look like a tiger was inside. And then they even made their slogan, "Put a tiger in your tank." The tiger was featured in numerous platforms, including billboards, commercials, and even songs. There were songs written about him. So
that's crazy. I mean, the longevity of this tiger is pretty impressive with that brand. Thank you. Let's switch gears and talk about some vintage seasonal holiday decorations. Jen's got some stuff coming just in time for the upcoming season, so let's bring it out. What we got?
Yeah, well, I'll bring this out, and I'm going to try to tilt it forward
I'll
without.
help you do that.
Yeah, so everybody can get a good look without
tipping them all the way
tipping them
over.
out, exactly. So anyway, I love decorating at Christmas and using vintage ornaments. You know, they evoke such great, memories and nostalgia. And I've got my favorites that have been passed down from my grandparents and parents, and my family. All everybody has their favorite ornament, and it's fun when it comes time to trim the tree. So Anyway, these ornaments are in fantastic condition. You can see that they're in their original boxes, and that's going to make them very desirable to collectors. I've seen people that use these vintage ornaments to decorate the Christmas tree, and sometimes they use them like all in shades of blue, or
they'll pick a single colorway,
exactly,
or sometimes they'll pepper them.
Yeah, or sometimes they just like these, you know, fantastic shapes. I'll try to hold one up very, very, very gently. Anyway, they're just fantastic, and they're going to be really popular items in this sale.
We saw it earlier. A lot of the ornaments are at the top of the list. So, I mean, I love carrying on the legacy of ornaments in our family too. So, shiny bright ornaments are pretty collected.
Actually, yes, and this sale offers a nice variety. There's several different lots, and many of them are made by Shiny Bright. As a matter of fact, Shiny Bright made the most popular Christmas ornaments throughout the 1940s and the 1950s. Okay. And the history of this of the Shiny Bright company is actually rather interesting, and it's a really great example of necessity being the mother of invention.
Okay.
So as the story goes, a gentleman named Max Eckert had been exporting glass ornaments from Germany in the early 1930s, but considering the political unrest that was brewing, he made the very wise decision and predicted that there might be a disruption in his supply chain if indeed the war broke out.
Sure.
So in 1937, he approached the Corning Glass Company and asked them to adapt their process for making light bulbs to make these glass ornaments.
Wow.
He then, in turn, sent them to his factories to be painted by hand. And the fact that Shiny Bright ornaments were made in America was really stressed as a selling point right at, after World War II.
After World War II.
Exactly. So the company prospered, and actually it was bought by Christopher Radko in the 1990s.
Another name synonymous with ornaments.
Exactly.
All right. I mean, this is getting me excited for the upcoming festivities.
Yep, it's going to be right around the corner. Be here right before we know it.
All right.
All right, I got these.
Thank you, thank you. Remember to chat any questions or comments you guys have before we wrap up. The Baker family has another collection prominently showing up in the sale. We got some license plates. There's some really unique ones and some old ones, and of course some political versions, as is the theme with a lot of what's going on here. So Kara's going to come on and tell us about this bear-shaped plate up here. I've never seen that before. What's that about?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, though, that the Christmas ornaments just jumped to the most followed items now, so that's pretty exciting.
Right on, all right.
But yeah, let's
Lots
talk
of
about
traction.
this.
Everybody's getting ready.
Yeah, let's talk about this bear license plate. Well, Palmer, if you see a license plate that's on a car that's shaped like a bear, you know you're very far north, because that was the license plate for the Canadian Northwest, is the license plate for the Canadian Northwest Territories. And it's actually a polar bear, and it was first issued in 1970 to celebrate the centennial of the Northwest Territories.
So how did they decide on the polar bear?
It was supposedly proposed by a child in school who entered a design contest.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's fun. And little did this child know this license plate would win the Plate of the Year award.
Nice.
And it became so popular that the polar bear shape would continue to be the license plate from then on.
Wow.
And it's also the registered trademark of the government of the Northwest Territories. What makes this plate that we have so rare is that it's from the very year the plate was first introduced. You can see
Yeah,
it
you can
says,
see the stamp.
Yeah, 1970. And then it's marked with PS here, which means it was used on a public service vehicle.
And then the color is kind of unique, so it's not like your typical white license plate.
Yeah, that's something else that makes this one particularly rare as well, because there have been only 2 years that they had white letters on this Arctic blue background, and that was the first year they issued.
So white every other year?
So 1970, 1972, they had the blue, and then every other year they had a white background until 2010, when they started having nature scenes in the background.
Right on. Very cool.
Yep.
All right. That's a lot about one license plate.
So there's
more?
There's more. There's a little drama that went on. Some controversy around this license plate in 1999 when the northeast portion of the territory, called Nunavut, separated from them. And the two regions argued over which territory could keep the bear. Nunavut argued that since the majority of the polar bears actually lived in their region, they should get to keep it. They did end up with a compromise, though. So they both.
I'm glad they worked it all out.
Yeah, they both kept the bear. So.
All right. So actually, it looks like there's some commentary about the FDR plates that I think are right behind me. They are the fourth highest bid right now in this particular part of the auction, with 30 bids at $250, and obviously very cool historic plates.
Yeah, they're great.
So those are right up here behind me. Appreciate it. Any other comments or any other questions that were coming in online, guys, before we wrap it up? All right. Looks like that may be it. I don't know. Kara's got a hold of something that we've been interested in.
Yeah. We just had to show this, Palmer. We thought you might like this guy. So.
What is happening here?
Let's see.
Oh
it's
no!
stuck. Does anybody else want to try this?
Don't.
Well, that was worth the struggle.
A little bit of a fail there, but I don't know. I think it worked out in the end. All right, it's incredible to see. Well, sorry, let me introduce that guy. He's Weepy the Wee Wee, and he's part of one of the vintage toy lots. So anyway, sorry. Incredible to see so many collectibles with such cultural relevance in one place. The age and breadth of the political pieces representing so many important figures and some forgotten ones in our government history is pretty remarkable, and it was a lot of fun to sift through these. We'll be back live on Sunday the 4th to provide an update on the Baker family collectibles and help guide you through the ending action. Just remember that Sunday night is another chance for your bidding to be featured in our upcoming TV series. The Baker family will be one of the episodes. So turn on the video capture feature in the upper right corner on live.ebth.com and make sure your camera's set up well to provide a clear image for the producers. As always, that night we're going to be going over several auctions closing, and we'll be bouncing back a bit. We'll definitely be featuring these two again and talking about seeing where things are at. I'm actually looking at some of the pins right now, and I know the Lincoln Hughes pin is at the top as the highest bid. And some of the other pins are starting to gain some real traction. So we look forward to seeing you guys on Sunday night. Until then, keep living the uncommon life. Happy bidding. Thank you.